Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In the cold light of Jefferson High School's music room, the notes of an old piano resonated faintly. All the students sat with their hands gripping their music stands, awaiting the most dreaded music lesson in the school. The teacher, Mr. Whitman, was known for his stern temper and cutting remarks, especially toward those who didn't come from privileged backgrounds. That day, his eyes fell upon Lily Carter, the concierge's daughter. Small and frail, with a slightly worn violin in her hand, she stood straight despite her anxiety. Mr. Whitman let out a chilling laugh. "Ah, there's the little caretaker. You really think you can play for this class?" he said, his voice full of contempt. "Show us what you can do, if you can call it playing." A murmur rippled through the room. Lily's friends looked away, embarrassed, while she felt her cheeks flush. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The violin felt like it weighed a ton in her arms. She knew one wrong move and the whole class would laugh at her. Mr. Whitman raised his baton, ready to interrupt every chord. But the moment the bow touched the strings, something incredible happened. A pure, vibrant sound, full of passion and mastery, flowed from the instrument. Each note trembled in the air, capturing everyone's attention, even stopping the professor in his arrogant pose. Lily wasn't just acting. She was telling a story, her anger, her pain, her determination, and every student in the class, even the teacher, felt the power of her emotions. This moment would change everyone's perception, that of a girl deemed weak and insignificant who, thanks to her talent and courage, would make the entire room tremble. Lily Carter had never liked mornings. That day, however, she walked purposefully down the hall of Jefferson High School, clutching her slightly worn violin. Since she had started taking music lessons at the community center, this instrument had become her refuge, her silent ally against a world that was often unjust. The bell rang, and the students rushed into the corridors, laughing and noisy. Lily, however, walked calmly, but felt the weight of their stares. She was the caretaker's daughter, and that was enough for some to judge her before they even knew her. The whispers didn't bother her, she knew her worth wasn't measured by the opinions of others. As she entered the music room, a shiver ran down her spine. The teacher, Mr. Whitman, was already there, standing behind his desk with his arms folded. His piercing eyes seemed capable of seeing into the very soul of each student. Lily swallowed hard. She already knew his reputation, strict, cruel, especially to those from modest backgrounds. "Sit down, Carter," he said sharply. His icy gaze scrutinized Lily's violin. "Let's hope you don't embarrass the class." She sat down, the violin resting on her knees, feeling the surge of her own courage grow stronger. She knew that this lesson would not only be a test of her musical abilities, but a test of her determination and pride. As Mr. Whitman explained the program, Lily focused on the strings of her violin. In a corner of the room, some students snickered softly, waiting for the moment when the teacher would humiliate the caretaker's daughter. But she ignored their murmurs. In her head, only one thought resonated: today, I'm going to show them who I am. And for the first time in a long time, an almost imperceptible smile appeared on her lips. Mr. Whitman stood up, holding his wand in his hand, and stared cruelly at Lily. "Carter, show us what you can do with this toy," he said, pointing at his violin with obvious contempt. "Or maybe you're only good for sweeping the halls like your father." A stifled laugh ran through the classroom. Some students exchanged uneasy glances, others couldn't help but smile at what they thought was Lily's fall. Lily's heart sank. Every word from the professor was a blade, but she refused to give in to fear. She placed the bow on the strings, took a deep breath, and closed her eyes for a few seconds. Mr. Whitman raised an eyebrow impatiently. "What are you waiting for? Or are you going to stand here and waste our time?" Lily opened her eyes, and in her gaze shone a fierce determination. She drew back the bow, and a clear, vibrant, and unexpected sound burst from the violin. The melody filled the room, powerful and moving, each note trembling with passion. The murmurs ceased instantly. Even Mr. Whitman seemed surprised, his eyes widening at what he heard. Lily wasn't just performing for him, she was telling her story, her anger, her pain, and her pride. The girl they wanted to humiliate was turning humiliation into triumph. The entire class held its breath. Each student could feel the power of emotion in the music, and for the first time, they no longer saw the caretaker's daughter, but an exceptional musician. Mr. Whitman tried to regain control. "Stop, it's not." But his voice was lost in the melody which continued to resonate, louder than his words. At that moment, something changed. Lily's power resided not only in her violin, but in her ability to transform oppression into strength. And that day, the Jefferson High School music room would forever hold the memory of a humiliation that turned into triumph. After the performance, a heavy silence fell over the room. Even the students who had laughed earlier remained frozen, unable to look away from Lily. Some whispered among themselves, "Did you hear that?" or "She's incredible." Lily gently rested her violin on her shoulder and took a deep breath. She could still feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, but a subtle smile was beginning to form on her lips. She had survived the ordeal, and more, she had turned the tables. Mr. Whitman, for his part, stood behind his desk, silent. His face was impassive, but a flicker of surprise mixed with irritation could be seen. Never had a student, and certainly not a staff member, dared to challenge his authority with such assurance. "Very fine, Carter," he finally said curtly. "You can sit down." Her classmates began to approach her tentatively. Some, inspired by Lily's courage, gave her small, encouraging smiles. Others, impressed, dared to ask her questions about her technique and her instrument. For the first time, Lily felt the barrier that separated her from the other students beginning to crack. In a corner of the room, her childhood friend, Jason Miller, watched her with admiration. "You totally outshone that teacher," he murmured. Lily nodded, but her gaze remained fixed on Mr. Whitman. She knew this victory was only the beginning. The professor wouldn't easily forgive this humiliation. And she was ready, she was going to prove that her talent wasn't limited to simply playing a piece under pressure. As the bell rang to signal the end of class, Lily left the room with renewed energy. Each step echoed like a silent challenge. She wasn't just the caretaker's daughter. She was a musician, a force to be reckoned with. The days following Lily's performance were anything but calm. In the halls of Jefferson High School, students now looked at her with respect, sometimes even with a hint of admiration mixed with envy. The jeers had died down, replaced by admiring whispers. Some wanted to know how she had learned to play like that, others simply watched her with curiosity. But all was not well. Mr. Whitman could not stomach this public humiliation. In his mind, his reputation as an untouchable teacher had just been shaken, and he fully intended to regain control. Every music lesson was now a silent battleground. He corrected his students more rigorously, watched Lily's every move, and looked for the slightest opportunity to belittle her. One morning, as Lily was settling in to rehearse before class, Mr. Whitman stared at her coldly. "Carter, today you're going to play in front of the orchestra. And I want you to be perfect. No excuses." Lily, undeterred, nodded. "Yes, Mr. Whitman." But this time, she wasn't afraid. She knew that music was her most powerful weapon, and that no authority, however severe, could stop her if she remained focused. During the lesson, she played with precision and emotion, captivating not only her classmates but also the members of the orchestra club present for the evaluation. The applause was sincere and fueled her determination. Mr. Whitman, though visibly annoyed, couldn't hide a slight stirring of respect for her undeniable talent. This victory, however partial, triggered a turning point. Lily was beginning to make a name for herself at school, not as the caretaker's daughter, but as the musician capable of touching every heartstring of her classmates. And if Mr. Whitman thought he could break her, he would soon discover that beneath her apparent fragility lay an implacable strength. A few weeks later, Jefferson High School announced an internal music competition. All talented students had to perform a piece before a jury of teachers and special guests. For Lily, this was an opportunity to show that her talent wasn't limited to just music class. she was going to make a big splash. She spent hours practicing in a quiet corner of the music room, her well-worn violin becoming an extension of herself. Every note was meticulously crafted, every chord filled with emotion and power. She knew that this time, the performance wouldn't just be for her classmates, but for herself and for all those who had doubted her. On the day of the competition, the tension in the room was palpable. The students were nervous, some impatient, others anxious. Mr. Whitman watched from his desk, his face impassive, but his eyes fixed on Lily. He didn't want to admit that the young girl might outshine everyone. When her turn came, Lily calmly stepped onto the stage. Silence fell immediately. All eyes were on her. She took a deep breath, rested her violin under her chin, and let the bow glide across the strings. The music that flowed from the instrument was more powerful than ever. Each note resonated with an intensity that captivated the audience. The melody told his story, his sorrows, his struggles, and his unwavering determination to never be crushed by anyone. The spectators were enthralled, hanging on every movement of his bow. Even Mr. Whitman felt a lump form in his throat. The girl he had tried to humiliate was now transforming the stage into a place where his own authority seemed meaningless. At the end of the song, absolute silence reigned for a few seconds, before frenzied applause erupted throughout the hall. Lily smiled slightly, her heart pounding but her spirits high. She had just proven once and for all that talent and courage could triumph over cruelty and contempt. And that moment marked a turning point. No one at Jefferson High School would ever be able to underestimate her again. After her triumphant performance at the music competition, Lily became the center of attention at Jefferson High School. Her classmates now looked at her with admiration, some even with a touch of envy. Students who had once ignored or mocked her now came to ask her questions about her technique and her violin. Mr. Whitman, for his part, was gradually losing control. He still tried to maintain a stern facade, but his eyes betrayed a growing frustration. Each time Lily entered the room, he felt his authority waver further. The caretaker's daughter, whom he had once wanted to humiliate, was now a role model for the entire class. One day, while correcting a group piece, he asked Lily to play a difficult passage in front of everyone. Deep down, he hoped she would fail and he could regain control. But Lily didn't falter. She played each note with incredible precision and emotion, leaving the entire room speechless. The students applauded spontaneously, and even some teachers stood up to congratulate her. Mr. Whitman, unable to deny the obvious, felt a part of his pride crumble. For the first time, he looked at Lily not as the concierge's daughter, but as an exceptional musician, worthy of respect. In the corridors, Lily's reputation grew daily. People spoke of her performance, her courage, and her determination. She had turned the tables. The one they wanted to humiliate was now the one who inspired everyone. For Lily, this was just the beginning. She knew the road ahead would be long and full of obstacles, but every note she played became proof that strength and talent could triumph over injustice. A few weeks later, Jefferson High School announced an exceptional event, a concert where all the talented students could perform in front of the entire faculty and student body. It was the perfect opportunity for Lily to show that her success was no fluke. She spent hours rehearsing in secret, choosing a difficult but moving piece, capable of captivating even the most demanding audiences. Every note was designed to convey not only her mastery of the violin, but also her story, the pain of humiliation, the determination to rise again, and the pride in her talent. On the day of the concert, the hall was packed. The students whispered, eager to see the young girl who had defied Mr. Whitman and captivated the entire school. The teacher, seated in the front row, maintained a stern expression, but his gaze betrayed a nervousness he couldn't hide. When Lily stepped onto the stage, a respectful silence fell. She raised her violin, took a deep breath, and began to play. The music filled the room, pure and powerful. Each note seemed to touch everyone's heart, awakening buried emotions. The students stood tall, captivated, while the teachers listened, unable to look away. Mr. Whitman felt a lump form in his throat. He had tried to break Lily, but now he understood that he had underestimated her courage and talent. The girl he had wanted to humiliate commanded the stage with a confidence and grace that no authority could eclipse. At the end of the piece, the hall erupted in frenzied applause. The students rose to their feet, cheering Lily like a true star. Even Mr. Whitman stood up, slowly, and gave her a look filled with a mixture of respect and resignation. That night, Lily proved one thing: humiliation could be transformed into triumph, and talent, combined with courage, could make even the most powerful tremble. Jefferson High School would never again see her as the janitor's daughter, but as an exceptional and inspiring musician. After the concert, Lily's reputation exploded throughout Jefferson High School. Students came to congratulate her in the hallways, some looking at her with admiration, others with envy. The teachers, including Mr. Whitman, began to treat her differently, with more respect, fewer hasty judgments. Mr. Whitman, who had been so cruel at first, now felt a complex mixture of pride and frustration. He knew he had been unfair, but accepting that a student had publicly surpassed him was not easy for him. Yet, he could not deny the obvious: Lily possessed rare talent and exceptional courage. One morning, as the music class was preparing to rehearse, Mr. Whitman approached Lily. His tone, though still authoritative, was gentler. "Carter. I wanted to tell you that your performance at the concert was impressive." Lily looked at him, surprised. She hadn't expected those words from him. "Thank you, Mr. Whitman," she replied calmly, a slight smile on her lips. The teacher nodded and, for the first time, seemed to publicly acknowledge his mistake. This small gesture symbolized a turning point. The girl he had wanted to humiliate had not only earned the respect of her classmates, but also that of her strictest teacher. From that day on, Lily became an example for the whole school. Her classmates began to see her as a source of inspiration. She proved that with talent, determination, and courage, one could transform adversity into strength. But Lily wasn't satisfied with just receiving admiration. She wanted to go further, to show that music could unite, move, and change perceptions. And to that end, she was already preparing her next challenge, even bolder, which would leave its mark on Jefferson High School forever. Inspired by her success and the recognition she had finally received, Lily decided to launch an ambitious project, creating a small orchestra bringing together students from all backgrounds, regardless of their level or past. She wanted to prove that music could break down barriers and bring people closer together. She began by convincing a few classmates who had timidly expressed their interest in music. Little by little, the group grew, bringing together students from different classes and even some whom one would never have imagined in an orchestra. The news spread quickly, and soon the whole school was following the rehearsals with curiosity and excitement. Mr. Whitman, initially skeptical, was forced to admit that Lily's project was having an incredible impact. The students became involved, progressed, and above all, seemed more confident and happy. Even those who were usually reserved or shy enjoyed playing, inspired by Lily's determination and undeniable talent. On the day of the first performance in front of the entire school, the excitement was palpable. Lily took her place in the center of the orchestra, her violin in hand. When she raised her bow, each student began to play with passion and precision. The music filled the hall, enveloping every corner with emotion and magic. Mr. Whitman, sitting in the front row, couldn't hide his astonishment. The students he had underestimated, and even some he had ignored, now shone in the spotlight, guided by Lily. The girl he had tried to humiliate had transformed the entire school, not out of revenge, but through the power of her talent and perseverance. At the end of the performance, the hall erupted in applause and cheers. Teachers and students rose, applauding the orchestra and, above all, the young girl who had inspired them all. Mr. Whitman, his eyes shining, rose in turn and murmured to himself, "I never would have believed she could do all that." That day, Lily didn't just earn respect, she permanently changed the atmosphere at Jefferson High School. She transformed humiliation into triumph and proved that courage and talent could influence and unite an entire group, far exceeding what anyone could have imagined. A few weeks after the musical project, Lily had become a true inspiration at Jefferson High School. Her name was on everyone's lips, and even outside of school, some were already talking about her exceptional talent. She was no longer the janitor's daughter who was underestimated, she was an accomplished musician, courageous and admired by all. Mr. Whitman, for his part, had changed. The initial confrontation with Lily had forced him to reflect on his behavior and his way of judging students. He had learned a valuable lesson: talent and determination are not measured by social status. One morning, he walked over to Lily after school, a small smile on his lips. "Carter, I wanted to tell you," he began hesitantly. "You showed me something I'd never seen before. Your courage, your talent, everything you've accomplished. I'm proud of you." Lily, visibly moved, nodded gently. "Thank you, Mr. Whitman. I never played to humiliate anyone. I just wanted to show that everyone deserves a chance." The professor nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her words. For the first time, he saw Lily not only as a brilliant student, but also as someone capable of inspiring and transforming her environment. Jefferson High School was never the same again. Students, teachers, and even the most skeptical had been touched by Lily's strength of character. Her music had transcended mere notes to become a vehicle for change, respect, and unity. And Lily, holding her violin close to her heart, understood that her journey was not just a revenge against humiliation, it was proof that courage, perseverance, and talent could make the world tremble, one chord at a time. Thus ended the story of the janitor's daughter, who became a symbol of inspiration and triumph. And while the echoes of her music continued to resonate in the halls of Jefferson High School, everyone knew one thing: Lily Carter had changed everything forever.